Good afternoon. It's wonderful to be here today, and it's so nice to be part of this amazing event here at Crystal Bridges. The arts are a powerful tool to help economies thrive, enable individuals to connect with each other and across cultures, and educate and enrich societies. As a global company, Bank of America supports museums, theater, art conservation, and dance worldwide. Bank of America's support helps enable a wide range of organizations, from local community-based arts programs to leading world-class arts institutions, to inspire, educate, and contribute to both the economic and creative vitality of their communities. I'm proud to say that more than 2,000 arts and cultural institutions are supported through our grants and volunteer programs. And now I'd like to introduce one of our esteemed speakers, Ms. Vanessa German, who is a sculptor, poet, and founder of Love Front Porch. Love Front Porch offers children in Vanessa's Homewood neighborhood of Pittsburgh an artistic alternative to violence. She has dedicated herself to improving the lives of children in her neighborhood by inviting them onto her porch and into her art house to create art in a safe, nurturing environment. In her own work as a sculptor and poet, Vanessa transforms found objects and everyday scenarios into powerful artworks, revealing the necessity to find love, strength, and compassion within ourselves and to share it with others. So without further delay, please welcome Vanessa German, founder of Love Front Porch, who will speak about her work as a citizen artist. Please come up.
Thank you. Good afternoon. It's so wonderful to be here with you. And I'm deeply humbled to be in a room with so many courageous, visionary, and generous people. You know, because it's one thing to be courageous and visionary and just keep it all to yourself. I'm really honored to have this opportunity to share with you my work, my love, and my community. That's me. I believe in the power of art. I believe in the power of art the way that Oprah Winfrey believes in the power of a good book. It is healing, transcendent, transformative. Let's go on a journey. I'll take you there. I believe in the power of art the way that Martha Stewart believes in the power of homemaking, making choices, being intentional, strategic about that which you place around you, about taking the best bits of the vegetables for the chickens. I believe in the power of art the way that Moshe Safdie believes in the power of place. Here is where we are here. I believe in the power of art. Citizen artist is what I call myself. I am a self-taught artist. I have a wonderful high school diploma, and then I have a diploma from the school of my mother, which was when we grew up in Los Angeles, if we wanted something new or we wanted the hottest, freshest clothes, she'd say, "You're gonna have to make that." And she put a whole bunch of stuff on our dining room table. And so citizen artist is who, what, where, why, and how I am. It is the language of my soul and my being as a human in the physical world. There are really three parts of my equation of living as a citizen artist. It's living or live, being alive where I am alive, and work. What is the work? What am I doing where I live and where I am alive? And love. Love is really important. I love Dr. Martin Luther King Jr., and for a long time, I would speak in front of students, and I would go places, and I would recite part of Dr. Martin Luther King's speech that he did in 1955 in Alabama, where he said, and then if you listen to a recording of Dr. King doing this speech, his voice shakes a little, and he says, there is a power in love that this world has not discovered yet. And he actually sounds a little sad about it. And for a long time, I walked around and I said, there's a power in love that this world has not discovered yet. There's a power in love that this world has not discovered yet. And I realized at some point I was chagrined and shamed because I started to have dreams about a hammer. And I thought to myself, oh, I'm doing with love what a carpenter does with a hammer if they just look at the hammer and say, that hammer could build a house. And you stand back and you look at the hammer. I was saying, oh, there's a power in love that this world has not discovered yet. And then I was like, build the house. And so I literally started to have dreams of hammers left at bus stops and hammers all over walls, so I had to pick up the hammer. I had to actually do something with the love and not just talk about it. So this for me is not a linear. It's not that I live here and I work here and I love here, but it's a cycle. It's an infusing cycle. It's a cycle that involves something that I personally call the technology of my soul, which means I'm living I live what I love what I work, it all interweaves, and it involves this really ancient technology of accessing my instincts and trusting myself and trusting the ideas that I have and trusting that they're not just novel, that they are ideas that have meaning and place and purpose. At the center of my equation, of my cycle of live, work, love as a citizen artist is art, because art is really, I love art. And I'm not ashamed to say that. I love art, and I really do believe in the power of art. Because, you can see this sculpture is called Power Figure to Keep Me Alive. I have made 2 or 3 very serious attempts on my own life. And this sculpture, which is in the Progressive collection, kept me alive. For 6 months, it's the only thing I would do. I would walk down into my studio, and piece by piece, I would put little tiny seed beads all over the face of this sculpture. And I told myself that I had to stop trying to be anything else in the world other than exactly what and who I am. And so when I say believe in the power of art, I believe in it because it has maintained my heartbeat. I live in a neighborhood in Pittsburgh called Homewood. Homewood, Rachel Maddow Show came and did a 2-part series in Homewood called Homewood, America's Most Violent Neighborhood. There was one point a couple years ago where 5 little boys were shot and killed in Homewood in one weekend. The youngest bled and died from a leg wound because he got shot. Nobody called the police for the shots. He fell in a vacant field, and somebody found his 9-year-old body 3 days later. And there's an idea that when you live in a neighborhood where there's a lot of violence, that you just get used to it, and that it's okay, and that it passes through your system, and you just become good with it. But the reality for me is I'm not good with it. I'm seriously traumatized, and I work through the power of art and through the power of love to heal myself, but also to bring the presence of this trauma, which is traumatizing even when you hear about it on the news. To hear the statistics in Chicago this summer, that's actually traumatizing to your own ears, and then what you're doing with it. When it enters your body, the way that you attend to it or do not attend to it lives inside of some of my work. So as a citizen artist, I create these sculptures in this little basement in Homewood, and then sometimes I just take the sculptures out onto the street, and I walk around with them. And then I hand them to people, say, let's take a picture of me, you, and this sculpture. And then it starts this really amazing conversation. What is this? It's scary, it's weird. So I take things out into the world, and I have my friends photograph me on corners in my neighborhood. This is called Gun with the Wind. This is me getting my hair braided on Miss Debbie's front porch with a sculpture on an igloo cooler. So that while we're sitting there, people who walk by are experiencing this front porch as a gallery or a museum that they hadn't even considered. And they'll sit and we have conversations, and they say, where do you live? And I say, over there. And they say, you made that here? You made that in this neighborhood that only ends up on the news when people are talking about how many people died? And I say, yes, I did. This happens in my neighborhood a lot, which is demolition of buildings. This is the building where Billy Strayhorn learned how to play the piano. It's the house across the street from the row house I lived in. You look at that and you see destruction. I look at that and I see art supplies. Everything in my work means something. There are a lot of little objects in my work. Keys which come, I pick keys up off the ground all the time. I'm that strange woman in the neighborhood who's always bringing things home from other people's trash on Monday night. And it keeps me safe. So keys always represent forgiveness, internal and external forgiveness in my work. And this is a photograph that a crackhead sold me of a church in my neighborhood in 1930 from a photo album that had photographs of African Americans in Pittsburgh beginning in 1898. Crackhead sold the entire photo album to me for $3. And he's alive inside of this work. So a citizen is somebody, well, this is definition of citizen. You can see it, you can read it. What I most love about this is an inhabitant. I think about how to thoroughly and dimensionally and lovingly inhabit the places that I move in the world with love and with art, because I've decided that my life comes down to very few things. Love and sharing that which I love, and being gracious to the individuals around me who share what they love and who share what they have. This is my front porch. So Love Front Porch began because I was creating sculptures that did not fit in my studio anymore. So I would bring them out onto my front porch, and I live at the intersection where there's a bus stop, and kids would say, "What are you doing? Why are you so dirty? Whatever you're doing, can I do it too?" And I would say, "No, you can't. Don't you have someplace to be?" And kids would always do that. They would stand at my fence while I was working, and I would never let them come in because I'm gay. And the word around the neighborhood was that the woman that I was living with was neither my sister or my cousin. And so they would, I never wanted them to think anything otherwise, or anything bad. And so what kids started to do was they would swing on my fence, and they would throw themselves over my fence, and they would say, "Oops, Miss Vanessa, I have landed on your stairs. And it seems that you have dropped this paintbrush. Can I do something?" And so I pulled out all of these old scraps of things, and I let them work on my front porch. And the piece of slate that they're working on, I took from the house in the earlier image that was being destroyed, and I brought all the slate home. And so the kids painted on the slate. And what happened was wonderful. They would see their friends get off the bus, and they would say, "Hey, Zoe, you want to make some art? Go home and put on some art clothes, and then you could come back. No, that's Miss Vanessa, she's fine, but I'll help you." And they started to invite their own friends into this experience. And my porch filled up with people, with kids, and my front yard filled up with kids. And sometimes I didn't have anything for them to paint on, so they started to paint my fence. And I said, "That's fine, you can go ahead and do that." There was a crisis at a house across the street from me. And what I keep hearing about this house from people who used to live in it is that so many bad things happened in this house. Everybody had a story, some horrific story about this house. And when it became vacant, I asked if we could use it, and they said no. They called me back 3 days later and said, "We can't stop thinking about it. You can use the house." And it is now the art house. And this is often what it looks like. I make an intentional, joyous spectacle of children and adults, because you see mothers there, friends out making art. I think this happened the day after someone was murdered at the top of the street. And the inclination is to stay in the house and to not inhabit the space that is your space. I make a habit to do it. So this is what the house looks like sometimes, and this is some of my work. And I take, as a citizen artist, material that is tangible material and intangible material, and it all works into what I create. And so in closing, I would say to you, this is me moving artwork through the community, installing it places, literally just dragging it through. This is me taking license as an artist and saying, this sign that says, "Stop shooting, we love you," is more art that goes out into the community. And the community is the gallery and the museum. And the best artist talks happen at my fence. And these are some of the faces. And so what I'll end in saying is that I believe that instead of going to war, we should dance. We should gather up the disputing nations, countries, and territories and have them face off in a battle of choreographers, soundscapes, and set design. That way, war would look like West Side Story. It would be a battle of leaps and lyrics. Your artists against ours. There would be no winners, no losers, only soul-shaking, soul-stirring, exhausting performances. And people would only be killed in battle on stage. And at the end of the show, everybody who died, they would stand up and take a bow. And we'd scream and we'd shout. We'd say, oh my God, when they killed you, I couldn't take it. And then there would be no more homophobia in the world because some of the world's best choreographers would be gay. Like Jerome Robbins and Alvin Ailey. People would run around all the time talking about... They would run around all the time saying, use your space, people, use your space. And then things would be so amazing. Everybody would be celebrated as the visionary that they are. And then the arts would get more funding in the schools and in the city streets because the National Endowment for the Arts would become the Department of Defense. It makes so much sense when you think about it.